Wealthy woman disguised as cleaning. Lady enters company, but no one imagined who she was. Sarah scrubbed the office floor vigorously, trying to ignore the disdainful look she received from the executives rushing past. At 25, she never imagined she'd be here, wearing a grey uniform and pushing a cleaning cart through the gleaming corridors of Apex Technologies, one of the country's largest tech companies. With a business degree from a state university, Sarah dreamed of one day occupying one of those offices with a view of the city. But the economic crisis and lack of opportunities led her to accept the first job that came along: janitor at Apex. For the past 6 months, she had witnessed the frantic routine of the corporate world up close, but from a perspective that no one noticed. It was as if she were invisible. Employees passed by her without greeting, as if she were part of the furniture. On the rare occasions when they noticed her presence, it was to make a complaint or give harsh orders. "Hey you!" Coffee was spilled in the meeting room. "Go clean it up now," shouted a man in a suit, without even looking at Sarah. She sighed, grabbed the cleaning supplies, and headed to the indicated room. Upon entering, she saw that an important meeting was taking place. High-level executives were animatedly discussing around the table, completely ignoring the janitor's presence. Sarah began to discreetly clean the spill area. "As I was saying, gentlemen, our new product will revolutionize the market," a middle-aged man was saying excitedly. "With the launch scheduled for next quarter, Apex's stock will skyrocket." Sarah couldn't help but overhear the conversation as she cleaned. This new product seemed really promising. She even had some ideas on how they could improve it, based on what she had studied in college. But who would listen to a simple janitor? As she finished cleaning, Sarah was preparing to leave the room discreetly when something unusual happened. The door opened and an elegant woman rushed in. "Sorry I'm late, gentlemen," said the newcomer. The executives immediately stood up with expressions of surprise and reverence. "Mrs. Thompson, what an honor to have you at our meeting," exclaimed one of them. Sarah was stunned. That was Elizabeth Thompson, the legendary CEO of Apex Technologies. Known for her business genius, Elizabeth was an almost mythical figure. Very few people in the company had ever seen the CEO in person. But what really shocked Sarah was Elizabeth's reaction upon seeing her. For a split second, their eyes met, and Sarah could swear she saw a glimmer of recognition in the CEO's eyes, as if they had met before. But that was impossible, wasn't it? How would the powerful Elizabeth Thompson know a simple janitor? Confused, Sarah quickly left the room. In the days that followed, that brief encounter wouldn't leave her mind. There was something strange going on there, she could feel it. Meanwhile, the atmosphere at Apex was becoming increasingly tense. Rumors about mass layoffs circulated through the corridors. The pressure for results increased, as did the demands on employees. One morning, Sarah was cleaning the bathrooms on the 20th floor when she heard raised voices coming from a nearby room. Curious, she approached the half-open door. "You have to increase your team's goals, Richard," a man was shouting. "I don't care how you do it. Work them to exhaustion if necessary. I want to see results." "But sir, my team is already at their limit," replied a younger voice, which Sarah recognized as Richard, a project manager. "They're working overtime every day, working on weekends. I don't know if they can handle more pressure." "Your problem," retorted the first man, whom Sarah identified as Charles Miller, one of the company's most feared directors. "If you can't get more out of them, maybe you need to look for another job. Understood?" Sarah heard footsteps approaching and ran to hide behind a pillar. She saw Charles leave the room with an arrogant smile on his face, followed by a dejected Richard. Her heart ached to see the young manager's desolate expression. In the days that followed, Sarah observed the consequences of that conversation. Richard's team seemed increasingly exhausted and demotivated. She saw them arriving earlier and leaving later, with deep dark circles and expressions of fatigue. One night, while cleaning the already empty offices, Sarah found a young analyst crying alone at her desk. "Is everything okay?" Sarah asked hesitantly. The young woman looked at her in surprise, as if only then noticing her presence. "Oh, sorry, She wiped away her tears, embarrassed. "It's nothing, just work stress." Sarah felt a wave of empathy. "Do you want to talk about it?" Sometimes it helps to vent. The analyst, who introduced herself as Jenny, ended up telling Sarah about the relentless pressure she had been under. The impossible goals, the constant demands, the fear of losing her job. I love what I do, but I don't know if I can take it anymore, Jenny confessed. I'm thinking about quitting. Sarah listened attentively, offering words of comfort and encouragement. At the end of the conversation, Jenny seemed more relieved. Thank you for listening to me, she said with a tired smile. It's funny, I've worked here for 2 years, and I think this is the most sincere conversation I've ever had with anyone in the company. Sarah smiled back, happy to have been able to help in some way, but inside, her heart was heavy. How many other people there were suffering in silence? The weeks passed and Sarah continued to observe the company's dynamics with increasingly critical eyes. She saw employees being publicly humiliated by their superiors, overheard conversations about unethical maneuvers to increase profits, witnessed cases of workplace bullying that were simply ignored by management. One day, while cleaning the corridors of the top floor, a restricted area where the board of directors was located, Sarah overheard a conversation that intrigued her. "Did you see the CEO leaving last night?" one secretary whispered to another. "She was dressed very simply, nothing like usual." "Yeah, I thought it was strange," replied her colleague. "And this morning I saw her arriving very early, as if she had already been here for hours. Do you think she sleeps in the office?" Sarah frowned, remembering the brief encounter she had had with Elizabeth Thompson months ago. There was something mysterious about the CEO's behavior. Days later, a curious incident happened. Sarah was cleaning the main lobby when she saw a simple woman, dressed in discreet clothes, enter hurriedly carrying several bags. A security guard approached her brusquely. "Hey you! Where do you think you're going? The supplier's entrance is at the back." The woman seemed surprised for a moment, but quickly composed herself. "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm new here, still getting familiar with the place," she replied with a polite smile. The guard looked at her suspiciously, but ended up letting her pass. Sarah, however, couldn't help but notice something familiar about that woman, the way she walked, her tone of voice. Where had she seen that before? It was then that a detail caught her attention. Hanging from one of the bags the woman was carrying was a small keychain, a keychain identical to the one Sarah had seen on Elizabeth Thompson's purse that day in the meeting room. Sarah's heart raced. Could it be possible? But why would the company's CEO disguise herself as an ordinary employee? Intrigued, Sarah began to pay more attention. In the days that followed, she noticed the presence of that mysterious woman in various sectors of the company. Always discreet, almost invisible, just as Sarah felt most of the time. One afternoon, Sarah was cleaning the bathrooms when she heard raised voices coming from one of the stalls. She recognized Jenny's voice, the analyst she had talked to weeks ago. "I can't take it anymore, Melissa," Jenny was saying, crying. "Charles is harassing me. He threatened to fire me if I don't agree to go out with him. I don't know what to do." Sarah felt her blood boil. That was explicit sexual harassment. How could they allow this to happen? At that moment, she heard the sound of the bathroom door opening. Instinctively, she hid in one of the stalls. Through the door gaps, she saw the mysterious woman, the one she suspected was Elizabeth Thompson in disguise, enter the bathroom. The disguised CEO seemed to hesitate for a moment, clearly having overheard the conversation. Then, to Sarah's surprise, she approached the stall where Jenny was. "Excuse me," she said softly. "I couldn't help but overhear what you said. What's happening is very serious. You need to report it." "Report it?" Jenny replied with a choked voice. "To whom? HR doesn't do anything. Everyone's afraid of Charles. And if I get fired, I need this job." "I understand your fear," the woman said firmly, "but you're not alone. There are people in the company who care and can help. Trust me." There was a moment of silence, then Jenny replied, "Who are you? I don't remember seeing you before." "Let's just say I'm someone who has the ear of management," the woman replied mysteriously. "I promise your complaint will be heard and taken seriously. You deserve to work in a safe and respectful environment." Sarah heard footsteps moving away and the bathroom door opening again. When she came out of her hiding place, she saw Jenny looking at the door with a renewed expression of hope on her face. In the days that followed, Sarah noticed a subtle change in the company's environment. Circulars were sent reinforcing anti-harassment policies. Charles Miller, the abusive director, was called for a closed-door meeting with the board. A week later, an official announcement declared Charles's dismissal for violation of the company's code of ethics. The buzz in the corridors was intense. Never before had a high-level executive been fired for misconduct. Sarah couldn't help but smile when she saw the relief on Jenny's face and that of other employees who had suffered from Charles's abusive behavior. Something was changing at Apex Technologies, and she was sure the mysterious disguised CEO was behind it. Meanwhile, Sarah continued her cleaning routine, always attentive to what was happening around her. One day, while cleaning the employee break room, she overheard a conversation that intrigued her. "Did you see the email that arrived today?" An excited employee was commenting. "The company is going to implement a mentoring program for employees at all levels." "Really?" replied another. "That's great. I've always wanted the chance to learn from someone more experienced." Sarah frowned, curious. A mentoring program open to all employees? Would that include even the cleaning and maintenance staff? Her question was answered the next day when she found a notice on the bulletin board in the outsourced employees' locker room. The mentoring program was indeed open to everyone, without exception. With her heart racing, Sarah filled out the registration form. She didn't have much hope of being selected, but it couldn't hurt to try. To her surprise, a few days later, she received an email informing her that she had been accepted into the program. Her first mentoring session was scheduled for the following week in one of the meeting rooms on the 15th floor. Sarah was nervous and excited at the same time. Who would her mentor be? What could she learn? Upon arriving at the designated room, Sarah had a surprise. Sitting at the table was the mysterious woman she suspected was the disguised CEO. "Hello, Sarah," the woman said with a welcoming smile. "My name is Beth. I'll be your mentor in this program." Sarah felt a chill in her stomach. Could it be possible that the company's CEO herself was there, willing to mentor her? But if it was indeed Elizabeth Thompson, why would she maintain the disguise? Deciding to play along for now, Sarah sat down and began to chat with Beth. To her surprise, the mentor seemed genuinely interested in her story and aspirations. "Tell me, Sarah," Beth said kindly, "what brought you to Apex? What are your dreams and goals?" Hesitant at first, Sarah gradually felt comfortable sharing her journey. She talked about her business degree, her dreams of building a career in the field, the difficulties she faced in finding a job. "You know, Beth," Sarah said after a moment of reflection, "when I accepted this job as a janitor, I thought it would be temporary. But as the months passed, I started to feel invisible. It's as if people didn't see me as a human being, with dreams and ambitions. But at the same time, that invisibility allowed me to see the company from a unique perspective." Beth listened attentively, her eyes shining with genuine interest. "And what did you see, Sarah? What insights did this unique perspective bring you?" Sarah hesitated for a moment, afraid of saying too much, but something in Beth's encouraging look made her continue. "I saw a lot of good things, Beth. I saw people passionate about what they do. I saw brilliant ideas being born in hallway conversations, but I also saw a lot of injustice. I saw talented employees being ignored because of prejudices. I saw workplace bullying being swept under the rug. I saw a culture of fear and excessive pressure that is stifling people's creativity and well-being." She paused, expecting to see disapproval on Beth's face, but to her surprise, the mentor just nodded, encouraging her to continue. "You know, Beth," Sarah continued, gaining confidence, "I believe Apex has incredible potential. But to achieve it, it needs to truly value its greatest asset, people. All employees, from the CEO to the janitor, have something valuable to contribute. If the company creates an environment where everyone feels truly seen, heard, and respected, imagine what we could achieve." Beth smiled, a gleam of approval in her eyes. "Sarah, you have a very insightful and valuable vision. Tell me, if you were in charge, what changes would you implement to create this environment you described?" Sarah's eyes widened, surprised by the question. For a moment she hesitated, but then, inspired by the unique opportunity to share her ideas, she began to speak. "Well, first I would implement an anonymous feedback system where all employees could report problems or suggest improvements without fear of retaliation. I would also create interdepartmental discussion groups so that people from different levels and areas could exchange ideas freely." She paused, organizing her thoughts, and then continued. "I would invest more in wellness programs and work-life balance, maybe a flexible schedule system or the option of remote work a few days a week. and I would definitely reinforce policies against harassment and discrimination with mandatory training for all hierarchical levels. Beth listened attentively, making occasional notes. Those are excellent ideas, Sarah. You clearly have a natural talent for leadership and people management. Tell me, have you ever considered applying for internal positions in the company in your field of study? Sarah lowered her eyes, a little embarrassed. Actually, Beth, I've thought about it. But whenever I see an interesting internal vacancy, I end up giving up on applying. I'm afraid of being rejected for being just a janitor. Beth reached out, gently touching Sarah's arm. Never underestimate yourself, Sarah. You have much more to offer than you imagine. Promise me that the next time you see a vacancy that interests you, you'll apply. You can count on me to support you in the process. Sarah felt a wave of emotion wash over her. For the first time since she had entered Apex, she felt that someone really believed in her potential. Thank you, Beth. I promise I'll try. The mentoring sessions with Beth became the highlight of Sarah's weeks. With each meeting, she felt more confident and empowered. Beth challenged her with thought-provoking questions, encouraged her to think outside the box and see the company's problems from a broader perspective. One day, during one of their sessions, Beth asked an intriguing question. Sarah, if you could implement a project to improve the company, something really innovative, what would it be? Sarah reflected for a moment, then her eyes lit up. You know, Beth, I have an idea that I've been developing for some time. It's a bit bold, but I think it could have a real impact. She then explained her concept, a program called A Day in the Life. The idea was that periodically, employees from different levels and departments would switch places for a day. An executive could work in cleaning, while a janitor would participate in strategic meetings. An IT manager could spend a day in customer service, while an intern would experience the responsibilities of a director. The goal, Sarah explained enthusiastically, would be to create empathy and mutual understanding between all levels of the company. It would help break down barriers, eliminate prejudices, and show that each function is equally important to Apex's success. Beth listened to the proposal attentively, an enigmatic smile on her lips. That's a fascinating idea, Sarah. Indeed, it could bring significant changes to the company culture. But tell me, do you think the board would accept such a radical proposal? Sarah hesitated. Honestly, I don't know. They would probably find the idea absurd coming from a janitor, but I believe that if they had an open mind to try, they would see the benefits. I see, said Beth thoughtfully. And what if I told you there's a way to present this idea directly to the CEO? Sarah's heart raced. To the CEO? But how? Beth smiled mysteriously. Let's say I have some contacts. If you're willing to prepare a formal presentation of your project, I can ensure it will reach Mrs. Thompson's hands. Sarah could hardly believe what she was hearing. It was an incredible opportunity, but also scary. Sarah hesitated. I don't know if I'm prepared for that, Beth. What if she hates the idea? What if I get fired for being too presumptuous? Sarah, Beth said firmly, you have brilliant ideas and a unique vision of the company. Don't let fear stop you from sharing that. Trust me, Mrs. Thompson values innovation and good ideas, no matter where they come from. Encouraged by her mentor's words, Sarah accepted the challenge. In the weeks that followed, she dedicated every free moment to developing her presentation. She researched, created slides, prepared arguments. Beth guided her throughout the process, offering valuable feedback and advice. Finally, the big day arrived. Sarah handed her presentation to Beth, who promised to forward it directly to the CEO. Now we wait, Beth said with an encouraging smile. Regardless of the outcome, Sarah, know that I'm very proud of you. You've shown admirable courage and initiative. The days that followed were anxious ones for Sarah. Every time she saw an executive pass by, she wondered if they had already seen her presentation. Were they laughing at her in the boardroom, or had they, by some miracle, liked her idea? A week later, Sarah was cleaning the main lobby when she noticed an unusual commotion. Employees were running back and forth, whispering excitedly. "Did you see the email?" was heard everywhere. "The CEO is going to make an announcement. They say it's something big." Sarah's heart raced. Could it be possible? At 2 p.m. sharp, all Apex employees gathered in the main auditorium. The buzz was intense, everyone speculating about what could be so important as to require a personal communication from the CEO. Sarah positioned herself discreetly at the back of the auditorium, her cleaning uniform making her almost invisible amid the sea of suits and business attire. A sudden silence fell over the audience when Elizabeth Thompson took the stage. Tall, elegant, and with a penetrating gaze, the CEO had a presence that commanded immediate respect. "Good afternoon, everyone," Elizabeth began, her strong voice echoing through the auditorium. "Thank you all for being here today. I have an important announcement to make, something that will fundamentally change the way we operate at Apex Technologies." She paused dramatically, her eyes scanning the audience. For a brief moment, Sarah had the impression that the CEO's gaze lingered on her, but she quickly dismissed the idea as imagination. "In recent months," Elizabeth continued, "I've been reflecting a lot on our company, on our values, our culture, our mission, and I've come to the conclusion that, despite all our success, we still have a lot to improve." A murmur ran through the audience. Elizabeth went on, "Today I want to announce the launch of a new program at Apex, a program that will challenge our perceptions, break down barriers, and make us a truly inclusive and innovative company." Sarah held her breath. It couldn't be possible. "The name of the program is A Day in the Life," Elizabeth announced, provoking surprised exclamations from the audience. "Each month, employees from different levels and departments will switch places for a day." Yes, you heard correctly. "Our executives may experience a day in cleaning, while our maintenance staff will participate in strategic meetings." The audience exploded in excited and confused comments. Sarah could hardly believe what she was hearing. It was her idea. They had actually accepted her proposal. Elizabeth raised her hands, calling for silence. "I know this may seem radical, maybe even a little scary for some, but I firmly believe that this initiative will bring immeasurable benefits to our company. It will create empathy, eliminate prejudices, and show us that each function, each individual is equally vital to Apex's success." She paused, her gaze once again scanning the audience. "And to set an example, I'll be the first to participate. Next month, I'll spend an entire day working alongside our cleaning team." The audience was silent for a moment, absorbing the information. Then, slowly, applause began to echo through the auditorium, gradually increasing until it turned into a standing ovation. Sarah was in shock. Her idea had not only been accepted, but would be implemented on a large scale, with the CEO's full support. Tears of joy and pride welled up in her eyes. Elizabeth waited for the applause to die down before continuing. "There's one more thing I'd like to announce. This brilliant program wasn't my idea, nor that of our executive team. It came from an employee that many of you probably never noticed. Someone who, despite occupying a position that many consider humble, demonstrated a vision and understanding of our company that many executives would envy." Sarah's heart almost stopped. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. "Sarah Miller," called Elizabeth, her eyes finding the young janitors at the back of the auditorium. "Please come up here." A stunned silence fell over the audience. All eyes turned to Sarah, who was paralyzed for a moment, unsure if she had heard correctly. "Come on, Sarah," Elizabeth encouraged with a warm smile. "Don't be shy. Come share your moment of glory." With trembling legs, Sarah began to walk towards the stage. The sea of employees parted at her passage, expressions of surprise and admiration on their faces. As she reached the stage, Elizabeth extended her hand to help her up. "Ladies and gentlemen," announced the CEO, "meet the brilliant mind behind the A Day in the Life program." Sarah not only conceived this innovative idea, but also had the courage to share it, challenging traditional hierarchical barriers. The audience burst into enthusiastic applause. Sarah, still dazed, didn't know how to react. Elizabeth put an arm around her shoulders comfortingly. "Sarah," said the CEO, turning to her, "your contribution to Apex goes far beyond this program. You've shown us that great ideas can come from anywhere, that each employee has a unique value to offer. And for that, I have another announcement to make." She turned back to the audience. "As of today, Sarah Miller leaves her position on the cleaning team to become our new coordinator of innovation and organizational culture, reporting directly to me." Sarah felt the world spin. She could hardly believe what was happening. It was as if all her dreams were coming true at once. But how? she managed to stammer, looking at Elizabeth with wide eyes. Elizabeth smiled, a mischievous glint in her eye. "Remember your mentor, Beth." And at that moment, everything made sense to Sarah. The subtle similarities, the deep knowledge of the company, the direct access to the CEO. Beth and Elizabeth were the same person. All this time, Sarah stammered, still in disbelief. Elizabeth nodded. "A few months ago, I decided I needed to see our company from a new perspective. I started disguising myself, working in different sectors, and that's how I met you, Sarah. I saw in you an extraordinary talent, a unique vision, and now I want you to help transform Apex into the kind of company we've always dreamed of being." The tears finally overflowed from Sarah's eyes. She impulsively hugged Elizabeth, forgetting for a moment all formalities. The CEO returned the hug warmly, to the surprise and emotion of the audience. "Thank you," whispered Sarah, her voice choked with emotion. "Thank you for believing in me." Elizabeth smiled, gently pulling away. "You deserve it, Sarah. Now how about we say a few words to your new colleagues?" Sarah nodded, taking a deep breath to calm herself. She turned to the audience, who were watching her with a mixture of curiosity and admiration. "Good afternoon, everyone," she began, her voice initially trembling but gaining strength as she spoke. "My name is Sarah Miller, and until a few minutes ago, I was just the janitor who cleaned your offices." She paused, observing the reactions in the audience. She saw expressions of surprise, some of embarrassment, others of genuine interest. For the past few months, while going unnoticed through the corridors of Apex, I had the unique opportunity to observe our company from a different perspective. I saw wonderful things: the dedication of employees passionate about what they do, creativity bubbling in coffee conversations, the incredible potential we have to make a difference in the world. Sarah paused again, gaining confidence with each word. "But I also saw things that need to improve. I saw talents being wasted because of prejudices. I saw brilliant people suffocated by a culture of fear and excessive pressure. I saw a company that, despite all its success, has not yet reached its full potential." She looked at Elizabeth, who nodded encouragingly. "The A Day in the Life program is just the beginning. My goal in my new position will be to help create an Apex where every employee feels valued, where every voice is heard, where innovation can flourish at all levels." The audience listened in attentive silence, many nodding in agreement. "I know some of you may be skeptical. After all, until today, I was just the person who cleaned your offices, but I ask you to keep an open mind. The best ideas can come from the most unexpected places, and the greatest transformations often begin with a small act of courage." Sarah smiled, feeling more confident than ever. "I'm looking forward to working with each of you, to hearing your ideas, your concerns, your dreams for this company. Together, we can make Apex not only the largest technology company in the country, but also the best place to work." She took a deep breath, preparing to end her speech. "I want to leave you with a thought. Never underestimate the power of a single idea, of a single voice. Because sometimes all it takes to change the world is someone brave enough to speak up, and someone wise enough to listen. Thank you." The audience burst into enthusiastic applause. Sarah saw smiling faces, people standing up for a standing ovation. She felt a wave of emotion wash over her, hardly believing the turn her life had taken. Elizabeth returned to the microphone, smiling broadly. "Thank you, Sarah, for those inspiring words. I'm sure everyone is as excited as I am to see the changes you'll bring to our company." The CEO then turned to the audience. "Before we close, I'd like to make one last announcement. As part of our new initiative to value internal talent, we'll be opening a promotion process in all departments. We encourage all employees, regardless of their current position, to apply for the vacancies that interest them." A murmur of excitement ran through the auditorium. Elizabeth raised her hands, calling for silence. "And to demonstrate our commitment to transparency and equal opportunities, the interviews for these promotions will be conducted by a diverse committee, which will include representatives from all hierarchical levels of the company." Sarah observed the reactions in the audience. She saw hope in the eyes of many employees who had probably never considered the possibility of growing in the company. She also saw some executives exchanging worried glances, clearly uncomfortable with the announced changes. Elizabeth concluded the event, with words of encouragement and optimism. As the employees began to disperse, many approached Sarah to congratulate her and shake her hand. "Your ideas are incredible," said a young analyst, shaking Sarah's hand enthusiastically. "I can't wait to see the changes you'll bring." "Congratulations, Sarah," said a middle-aged manager, looking a bit embarrassed. "I guess I owe you an apology. I never gave proper attention to the cleaning staff. You taught us a valuable lesson today." Sarah smiled, thanking everyone kindly. Her heart was overflowing with joy and gratitude. She knew the path ahead wouldn't be easy, that she would face challenges and resistance, but she was ready to face them. As Sarah left the auditorium alongside Elizabeth, she couldn't help but marvel at the journey that had brought her here. From an invisible janitor to a key player in transforming one of the country's largest companies, it was almost too much to believe. "Ready for your new adventure?" Elizabeth asked with a warm smile. Sarah took a deep breath, feeling a mix of excitement and determination. "More than ready," she replied confidently. "We have a company to transform." As they walked together towards the executive offices, Sarah knew that this was just the beginning. The real work of changing not just Apex, but potentially the entire corporate world was about to start, and she couldn't wait to see what the future held.